I better tell you before you get close. I'm a special case, I'm not like the other ones. There is a reason why.
A few of you have asked if we could do another video on off-camera flash techniques. So we're going to show you a few today, a few simple setups using Softbox, a brolly and bare flash. And we're going to show you the difference between hard and soft light. Because we're shooting in a disused warehouse and there's not a lot of colour, we're going to go for a high contrast look and we're going to convert our pictures to black and white afterwards. When you're using flash photography, the best way to think about it is two exposures. Firstly, you're exposing for the ambient light, which is the natural daylight around us, and secondly, you're exposing for the flash when it fires. So that's a good way of thinking about it. Think about it as two exposures, one for the ambient light and a second for your flash when it fires. We're going to start off by taking a few pictures of Leone here, and we're going to use our three light sources. So we're going to see the difference between bare flash and then a brolly and then a softbox. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take an exposure for the ambient light. So we're not going to use our flash to start with. I'm going to take just a standard daylight exposure and see what our background light is like. I've taken my exposure for the ambient light and it's a 60th of a second at ISO 100 and f4. Now this is giving me a nice moody background. It's slightly underexposed, therefore the light on Leone's face isn't going to be perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some flash and I'm going to use my light meter. I always use a light meter, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to ISO 100 at a 60th of a second, the same as my camera. Then I'm going to use the meter to meter the light from the flash until it's set at f4. Now background is at, ambient light's at f4, so we're going to put a little bit of light in Leone's face, also at f4, which should expose her correctly. You can see from the bare flash that the light's quite hard and quite harsh, and it's thrown a shadow across Leone's nose. Next is the softbox, and you can see here there's no shadows at all thrown across Leone's face from her nose, and also the brolly. There's not a lot of difference in the look between the brolly and the softbox. Another important thing to remember when you're using off-camera flash or flash of any kind is that the aperture affects the power of the flash, not the shutter speed. I'm going to take a couple of pictures of Leone, and as I said earlier, we've exposed Leone at f4, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep everything else the same, but I'm just going to move up to f5.6, which lets in half as much light in as f4, and we're going to see Leone will darken down as not as much light gets through. Then we're going to go to f8, which lets in half as much light as f5.6, and you'll see Leone get darker still. Then I'm going to go back to f4 originally, and I'm going to just adjust the shutter speed from a 60th to 125th and then to a 250th. Again, we shouldn't see the light on Leone change at all, just the ambient light or the background light will change. One of the best features on these flashes is the zoom. Here you can see it goes all the way from 17mm all the way up to 200mm. And what that is it's the width of the flash. If you put it on your camera in automatic, if the flash is mounted on the camera and you've got a 17mm lens, the spread will be quite wide, 17mm. And if you go all the way up to 200 and you've got a lens on, say 70 to 200, again the beam will narrow and it'll only eliminate what the lens sees at 200mm. What we're going to do here is we're going to take a slightly wider angle view of Leone, but we're going to keep the flash zoomed to 200, so we get a nice narrow beam of light on Leone, and we can underexpose the background slightly and get a nice little bit of mood to the shot. So far we've been putting the lights fairly close to Leone, just a little bit above, but what we're going to do next is we're going to use our small softbox, our small square softbox, and we're going to put it high above Leone's head so it's shining down from above. And what we're going to try and do is get a little bit of darkness in the eyes, a bit like mimicking a bright sunny day when the sun's high in the sky above you and you have to wear sunglasses because there's a bit of a glare in the face. For our final shots, we're going to go back to using the hard light we used originally, but we're going to use a grid over the light, which means that it'll direct the light in a very, very narrow beam, lighting up Leone. And what we're going to do is we're going to have Leone standing against the wall here, and we're going to underexpose the background, so without the light, it will be in complete darkness. So the only light falling on Leone will be from our flash. And then we're going to take a few shots and show you the effect it has. It's going to be quite dramatic and it's going to look fantastic in black and white. Let's see what it looks like.